Good morning, Sue. Thank you for...
Good morning, Laurie.
You got your coffee?
I have. Yes,
okay.
I have.
Me too. All right. So thank you for agreeing to visit with me. I heard some of your story when we were in one of the group meetings about Nutrient Optimizer, the masterclass. And actually, where I really picked up your story is when Marty did a live with you. And it made me curious. So I wanted to hear more. I think the thing that really made me curious is the fact that you got diagnosed with MS along the way. But anyway, so just to give people that are watching this after the fact some background, I found a blog post by Marty Kendall back in 2018 when I was dealing with menopausal weight gain. I thought I'd found a diet to live on happily for the rest of my life, and it was great until menopause hit. And that put me on a search looking for some answers because I was starting to get padded around the middle, that tire that some menopausal women get. And I stumbled upon a Facebook post about somebody saying that they waited to eat until their blood glucose got down to a certain number. And I couldn't find that person. They didn't seem to be in the group anymore. And I just started searching about blood glucose and weight loss and dieting. And I stumbled on Marty's blog post, how to use your glucose meter as a fuel gauge. And so I started doing that. So that led me to Marty's groups. And over the course of time, I reached out to him and let him know that I was really grateful for his work. And I specifically liked his work because he wasn't promoting any particular dietary philosophy.
No.
He wasn't keto, pro keto. He wasn't low carb. He was really focusing on nutrition. So, and I guess that's your connection to him is nutrition. What I don't know about you is how you found Marty. So I'd like to hear that story. How did you find him?
Oh, I have a good story for that one. After many years of messing around trying to be well, a friend of mine called me and said there's a really interesting sounding meeting at a cafe in Brisbane, which is about an hour up the road from my home. And did I want to come along and listen? And I said, yeah, sure, I'm in that. That's fine. She ended up not eventually going because she had something else to do, but I went along and listened. And that was Marty, just in a little cafe on a side street, talking about nutrition and blood glucose and diabetes and all sorts of things. And then he found in the back of the group that was watching him was this awful lady that just kept asking really difficult, nonsensical questions. And so afterwards he said, look, why don't we have a chat? I think, there's things we can do together. And I've known him since then. I think that was in 2000, maybe mid-2017 or maybe even 16. I'm not sure which.
Okay.
But a while ago, yeah, so 3 or 4 years ago.
So had you always been interested in eating healthy?
And
we're disconnecting a little bit.
No, absolutely not. The connection's a little bit, yeah, but it's fine. I can still hear you.
Okay.
I was a businesswoman. I had my own business, and I had a very early menopause at around about 40 years of age.
Oh, you did.
That was no problem, and I just stacked on a bit of weight, as we all do. But I was busy. I was running my own business, and anyone who's ever run their own business will know that you work harder when you work for yourself than you do for anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had many, many little strange symptoms. My doctor, my GP, general practitioner, is a friend. And over dinner one night, he called me. He said, I always call you my heart sink patient. I said, oh yeah, what does that mean? A couple of glasses of red wine under. And he said, well, every time you walk in my rooms, my heart sinks because you always have something that's really difficult and I can't help you.
Mm.
So odd things were going on.
Okay.
Anyway, that's a long story short. Some while after that, I was out of the blue diagnosed with MS because I had ophthalmic neuritis. So my obstetrician diagnosed the MS and she sent me off to see the neurologist.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fascinated to know
that was
that
a hit.
I figured out in the last few years as we go to the eye doctor and have our annual exam, they see a lot of health markers through
Absolutely.
our eyes. And so that's how your MS was picked up, your eye doctor picked it up. Wow.
The optic disc was swollen and she could see that. And she knew that a swollen optic disc could mean something not so good. So she sent me off to have proper tests and sort of how many tests can one have, you name it. We had it. And then eventually the MRI and the spinal tap and, all of those sorts of tests.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes,
Ugly.
you have MS. And I thought, well, that's a sort of thump. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But actually, it was more of a thump for my family. I think my husband was terrified, and the children could see me, who are adults, could see me sitting in a wheelchair and getting, all the stories you hear about MS. It's really bad.
How old were you, Sue, when you got diagnosed?
Oh, it's probably, let's see, I'm 71. It's probably about 30 years ago. So yeah, 45, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, 45 to 48, something like that.
But prior to that, you weren't a person who focused on eating healthy. You just ate what people would call a standard diet.
Reasonably healthy.
Okay, yeah. So eating healthy now is really because of Marty, what you've learned from him?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, lots and lots and lots of research and looking at paleo, keto, vegetarianism, you name it. There are so many names for things. But in the long run, Marty's words are absolutely correct in that it's not about diet or what you call it. It's about healthy eating.
Yeah, you don't.
End of story.
Exactly.
That's it.
I love his line where your diet doesn't need a name or a philosophy. It just needs enough nutrients. So
yeah, that's right.
For those who are listening to us, I'm going to put lots of links in the YouTube video description area so people can find out who this Marty is that we're talking about. It's Marty Kendall of optimizingnutrition.com. And I'll just link. He runs a few different Facebook groups, both open, public, and private groups. And we'll just keep going on with your story. But I wanted to say that again, Marty, all of being able to find Marty and different articles and things that would be useful for him will be in the description link. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's good. People need to go find him. Yeah.
Right. I agree. And I also love that he's not saying, sign up for my expensive program and buy this and buy that. The man just cares about helping people. And yes, there are some things you could pay for, but it's not expensive.
Oh gosh, no.
It's a gold mine of information. And I think he's very reasonable in the cost of, joining the private groups that run on a regular cycle of education together, where we can be on a Facebook group together and encourage each other.
Oh, absolutely. I just yeah, he's amazing. And his partner, Alex, who is the IT side of the things, of building a platform that will be very, very, very simple to use. And it's evolving as we speak. They're probably both working on it as we speak. Yeah, Alex in his home And Marty, no, it's Saturday morning. Hopefully Marty's still asleep. Yeah.
Okay.
But I doubt it. Yeah.
All right. So you hadn't lived on a healthy diet and you got diagnosed with MS, and this was about 13 years ago?
30
years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then
I did a lot of work.
You were doing research. Oh, here's another thing that I want you to share about, because I didn't get the full story, and this really caught my attention last weekend when we were in the group together, where you said you are now saving what, more than $400 a month on supplements?
Yeah, here or there. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about that. How
Absolutely.
did the supplements get started and whatnot?
Well, when you're looking into things, I have two doctors. I have one who's what's the word? She looks at holistic medicine as well as clinical medicine. She looks at other things as well. So, and she's a friend too.
I think you mentioned
that's right. That's the word, functional medicine person. And she's a friend too. I'm lucky. I'm sort of vaguely from a medical background, so I have friends who are doctors. And she is particularly interested in hormonal women, in menopausal women. She's quite well known in Australia for her work with menopausal women. And she just likes making sure that you've got all the right nutrients in your blood, in your body, as functional people do. So we had another raft of tests. You take 3 armfuls of blood and you send it out, and you have all these things that go on. And I'd get my blood results back, and we would sit there and go through them and say, well, you need more of this and less of that and more of this and this and that. No, I'll show you. I'm going to get up. I hope you don't get dizzy.
No. I'm glad you're doing this, and you were about to throw all these out.
I was, yeah. I got them out this morning, and I hope you can see. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Bottles.
There's, oh God, I don't know how many, but there are just so many of them. And there are others that I've thrown out already, Okay. So I was spending a lot of money on supplements.
It's expensive.
I can see where she was coming from. My blood said I needed all of those things. And actually, out of all of those, where is it? This one, I do take this little tiny baby one all by itself, because that's a vitamin D3 supplement, which people who have MS don't do well without good amounts of D3, even though I'm in Australia and I live in the sunny state of Queensland and I go out a lot. I still need a supplement of D3, but that's the only one I take now. All the others are going in the bin.
I think that everybody is recommended to be mindful of what their D3 levels are and be supplementing if they're not in optimal ranges, because it has such a cascading effect on the other parts of our body.
Absolutely. So when I was doing all of that, then of course it comes to what's bioavailable, and you're taking all these supplements, and are they doing any good, or are you just peeing them out the other end? And we would go back and do another blood test, a couple of months later, and see how things were changing. So she wasn't just bombarding me with a million supplements.
That's good.
We were looking at it very carefully.
Okay.
And eventually then I met, and I was doing all this, and then I met Marty and started talking about nutrition. I was fascinated by the fact that his wife, Monica, is a type 1 diabetic, which is what got him started in the first place. About nutrition. And I said, well, how do you control that? How do you control? Nobody can control type 1 diabetes without all these other things. No. So then we started talking about the various parts of nutrition. And
I'm going to have you say that over again, Sue. We're breaking up here. Just a second.
Bioavailable. Okay.
So you started to go, your voice started to go wonky when you asked Marty how he was helping Monica manage type 1.
Yeah. So then we started to, when he was explaining what he was doing with that, I started to think more about how to get bioavailable nutrients into my body through whole foods rather than through supplementation with various things. And it really went from there. This was before the first masterclass came along, his masterclass thing, which is all about nutrition. And we just continued to talk, and I continued to research and decided to, in a careful way, stop the supplementation.
Okay.
You know, my doctor, Maura, she just went, "Oh my God, you're at it. You know, you've got your OCD hat on." Yeah, okay. So I did it carefully. I stopped them one by one and bit by bit, probably a bit faster than she would have liked, but you know, that's me.
Were you continuing?
And then I stopped.
Were you continuing to work with her so she could go ahead and look at your blood and see that? Yes.
Oh, absolutely, of course.
Okay,
yeah,
so
of course.
you were being followed the whole time. Now, put in the timeline then when you could tell you were declining and someone said to you, it's time to start shopping for a wheelchair. Fit that into meeting Marty.
Okay, that was before I met Marty, and I'd forgotten about that. And yes, that takes me back to where I first started looking at nutrition from an MS point of view.
Okay.
The drugs, I had promised my neurologist that I would stay on the drugs long enough to see if they were having any effect. I don't like drugs.
Okay.
The MS drugs are toxic, poisonous. They're horrible. And I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole other discussion. I didn't like them. And the side effects for me were worse than they were giving me a possibility of perhaps these drugs might give me a 30% better chance of not having another relapse.
Okay.
And I thought, well, you know, at my age, a 30% better chance, maybe, possibly. Don't like that very much. So let's have a look at what we can do. And then at one point they said, okay, so I stopped taking those and I started looking at things. But then they said, Sue, you know, you're going to have to think about what sort of wheelchair you're going to want to. I was on a stick. Oh. I couldn't do much, you know, all of those things. And I have a very bad potty mouth, which I don't know if that's an American term. My language is not best sometimes. So I said expletives and
not doing
basically that. Said, no, I'm not going to do that. I found a doctor who's an emergency.
You were using a cane at that time then?
Yeah,
okay.
To get around. Yeah, okay. I was in a fair amount of pain. So I found a doctor in Australia who had MS himself and had determined to investigate it. So I went and did a 5-day retreat with him.
Okay.
Residential retreat about dealing with MS. Another gorgeous fellow who everybody should know about if you've got MS is George Jelinek, who's written a couple of books.
You went wonky.
And so I went after a week with him.
Your voice went screwy. George Jelinek?
Jelinek, Jellinek, I think. Okay. I'll send you the link for his book.
Please do. I'll put that in here too.
Yeah. Anyway, so I liked his way, which was to deal with MS through nutrition rather than through drugs.
That makes me think of Terry Walls, Dr. Terry Walls.
Yes, and I went there after him. I've been through lots and lots and lots of these things. I follow Terry Walls a lot. She's absolutely amazing as well. But of course, all of this stuff, I mean, George's stuff was fantastic and Terry's stuff is fantastic, but it's complicated. And you spend your whole life just trying to stay well and get better. At that stage, I needed to get better. And it was hard work. And I still had my business to run. And all those other things and children and, you know, blah, blah, blah. You can whinge all you like, but the fact is you have to just get on and do it, which is what I did. I say I do have a very positive attitude in life. It's like, well, I'm not going the wheelchair, so we'll have to find a different way. So
okay.
that was that. But being through all that, George Jelinek, Terry Walls, and other people, Jason Fung, you know, there are so many different people. There's the low-carb down under group, there's a low-carb America group, there's a low-carb down under group. Okay. They all came together to help me in my head. I brought them all together and thought, how can I best do this? And then one day I met Marty Kendall. And I thought, oh my God, you know, this is the guy I needed to talk to, because he just says, forget all the junk. You don't need paleo, keto, this, that, the other, which was a lot like the first guy, George Jelinek, but he came at it at a different angle, which suited me more for my lifestyle. And here I am, and I am super healthy. I lost all the weight that I'd put on. I lost about, I don't know what it is in pounds, but I lost about 25 kilos.
So Marty has featured you in the Optimizing Nutrition Facebook page.
Oh, he has, and that's very embarrassing. Big fat me. That's right.
You look wonderful now. So that's another link that I will put into the discussion, the description area of this video, so that people can go read that and see your pictures from before and after too, because it's no, you're amazing. I mean, what 71-year-old woman wouldn't want the transformation that you've had? It was like, I want to be Sue Davies when I grow up, kind of thing.
Poor thing. Yeah. No, for me, it's when you get to this large age, it's really not so much about the way you look. I like to look nice, of course, we all do, but it's not so much about the way I look, but the way I feel.
Yes.
I sleep better. My gut, a lot of those stuff that you can see over there are about gut microbiome health, which I'm a firm believer is one of the most central tenets of health. I agree.
I'm right there with you on that.
I would have taken 5 million different things about gut microbiome. I've been to all sorts of stuff. These days, I feel good. I'm the right weight for my body. My gut works properly without taking a million different things. I find it relatively easy to maintain. I have a little, I'm a bit OCD, as I said. I have a little window. I weigh myself every morning because I like to do that, and it doesn't make me go all crazy if I've put on 300 grams or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So I have a little window of somewhere between 2 to 4 kilos.
Okay. Yeah, I do the same thing. I let myself have a range.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I get up to the top end of my range, then I'll say, okay, I'm going to cut out all of those things that I know will make me put weight on. And it generally doesn't take more than a week to just get back down to where I want to be. And
I see the same thing with myself. Whereas
that's fine. But Laurie, the thing that I tell people on Facebook and all these places, you don't get you can look at my story on those awful pictures and see this person that went from that to that, and that's fine. You don't get there overnight.
No, you do not.
However many, it took me 50 years to get where I was, or 55 years to get where I was. So you can't get back to when you were 18 overnight.
No.
You know, and people seem to want it to be, I mean, I'm a great believer in instant gratification. I love it. But you can't do it. You know, it takes a while. And people that go on crash diets, I've done it. Don't get me wrong. I've done all the bad things as well, or not bad things, but I've done all the silly things. You go on a crash diet, you lose a lot of weight, time after time, I'd diet and I'd lose 12 kilos. And then I thought, oh, yeah, this is great. And then 3 months later, I'd be 15 kilos heavier because it just comes back on again. Right. So it needs to be, in my terms, it needs to be a lifestyle of nutritional well-being. And that's the way I think of it. Mm-hmm. It's nutritional well-being. It's not, I can't eat that.
Right.
And I mustn't eat that. Or I can't have chocolate. I'm a chocoholic. I love chocolate. Mm-hmm. And I eat chocolate sometimes. Just don't eat a bar a day. Exactly. Like I used to. When I was working, I'd be chewing on a bar a day, you know. So to me, nutritional well-being, and I am healthy. And we walk miles every day. We go on trekking journeys. I'd love to be able to trek further, but I'm just too old. I think that we've got there, you know, you can't get past that. Right. But it works. And to me, the way that Marty Kendall and Alex Zotoff are putting their platform forward is to a world of people who they want to help. And it's it sounds terribly altruistic. You hear people go, oh, you know, I want to help people around the world, and you think, yeah, right. I'll believe you when I see it. But these two really do. Yeah. Alex, I don't know, you're probably aware of Alex's background. He used to be an international tennis player.
Yeah, so I don't know as much about Alex as I do about Marty, but I figured out that Alex is right in the trenches there with Marty. He's the one doing all
he's
the
programming. IT guy.
Yeah. And he's making the nutrient optimizer more usable, user-friendly. As you complain about things.
Yes, and I complain a lot. He knows about nutrition because he used to be a super athlete. Okay. So of course they know about nutrition, so he knows about that. But his real strength in this partnership for me is his IT abilities. He's a super programmer. And by the way, they both have day jobs.
I know.
I don't know how they do it. They both have families. They both have day jobs, and they're still doing all of this amazing stuff. But anyway, that digresses. Alex responds, which is another thing that's different. Not only do they want to help people, they respond personally to questions. And, you know, I can message Alex or put a question on Facebook that says, hey, Alex, this is not working right. Mm-hmm. I need you to make it do this instead.
Right.
And he does.
Yeah. I know.
That's like the first time that happened, I went, oh.
Respond.
Listen to me. Yeah. And having, the more I get to know them, the more I realize that this is a true life attaining thing that they both want to do. They don't, I'm sure and I would love to see them make some money out of it so they could stop their day jobs and really get into it. And by goodness me, wouldn't we all be better off for that? Yeah. So yes, I'd like to see them make some money out of it. Of course I would. Mm-hmm. But for them, it's not about the money. It's about helping people, which is so unusual. It's so lovely. One American, one Australian, you know, an Aussie bloke and an American fellow, and they're just making magic on a health.
I'm waiting for you to come back. You froze for me.
Benefit side of things. Yeah, since I've known him, and I've been helping them with their Facebook pages and whatever to do things for them, help. The number of people that have reversed their diabetes.
Oh, I know.
The type 2 diabetes.
I noticed a difference in Bob last Saturday when we were in the group on the nutrition masterclass, and all of a sudden there's this change in Bob's face. It's like, that man is improving his health. This is wonderful.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
Absolutely. And I've seen so many people do it. And the stories that come out about A1C has gone down from 12 to 6 in 6 months' time, and I'm feeling so much better. I'm sleeping. Sleep. How many people don't sleep? I used to sleep for about 2 or 3 hours a night, and I I would be productive. I would work at home. I would do all things for the business and this and that. Even when I retired, I was only sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night. And now I sleep an average of 7.
So you get a good restful night of sleep 8. Then. It's normal for you to get a good restful night.
Absolutely. Okay.
That right there is.
Yeah. And I go to bed early because I wake up with the sun. And in Australia at the moment, the sun gets up at 4:30. So I do that. But in general, sleep is better. So as soon as sleep is better, your whole life gets better. My gut biome works. Wow, that works. I spent years and years and years being constipated and taking lots of supplements to do that. I'm healthy. I can breathe. I started doing Wim Hof breathing, and
I've heard about it. I haven't dabbled with it yet, but I've heard about it. It's a buzz.
I'm a dabbler. Yeah, it's fantastic. I love it.
So tell me about you do the nutrition part. Do you do the fasting part? Do you do the blood sugar part? What?
I do. Yeah. It was interesting because I started with Marty with nutrition.
Okay.
And we talked a lot about that. Then he started these 6-week masterclass challenges. So
and for people listening who don't have a clue what that means, I think it's $47, and you can be part of the masterclass group.
6 weeks. Yeah.
6 weeks. It's a private Facebook group that you go into, and Marty posts teaching posts on a regular basis, and we can ask questions, and then we meet via Facebook Lives to be able typically on a Saturday, I guess we've been meeting and getting to ask questions and learn from one another and learn about putting in our data if we want to do that kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
do you think that describes it?
Absolutely, and it's fascinating. I truly enjoyed it the first time. I've done about 4 or 5 of them now. I continue to do them because it keeps me on track, and I'm helping anyway, so that's fine. Yeah. But the thing about the masterclass is once you've joined a masterclass and you've done your 6 weeks, it doesn't all stop there. And then he doesn't say, right, well, you've got to pay a $10 a week supplement to be able to do that, or now you need to go and buy all these supplements that I've made, or none of that.
He's not pushing supplements.
But you continue to be part of the Facebook group, the community, which is, by the way, in my terminology, I've been in a lot of Facebook communities. Some are better than others. This one is what I see as being truly supportive. It's not, there's no, I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to say you're stupid. I'm not going to say that's a silly question. Why don't you just read the stuff? Everything gets answered. And people are, I don't think I've ever seen on any of Marty's groups a nasty comment.
I haven't either.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
We seem to be drawing people who are supportive and who
yeah. We got another little freeze, but you're back.
Of that unity.
So you said, I came at this through how to use your glucose meter as a fuel gauge, which then it was later on that he named it data-driven fasting. And then he rewrote the article, and I think about the time he was getting ready to rewrite that article and republish it is when I reached out to him and said, you have changed my life. I'm so grateful for your website, all the teaching you provide. I have been doing your method of using a glucose meter as a fuel gauge for a year and a half, and I'm so very grateful. And I tell people about it. I share it all the time. And he said, he asked me if he could include me in his data-driven fasting article. So I'm one of the success stories or whatever. My picture's in there. You said, though, that you started with him with the nutrition part first. I came to the nutrition later. I started with the glucose data-driven fasting part. So tell me about you doing the glucose part then.
Okay, so because I was by now involved in helping the guys to run their sites and things, and then Marty sends me articles for proofreading, for editing. I'm a bit of a word nerd. I like words. So I do a bit of editing for him. But then he said, look, I've got this thing I call data-driven fasting, about using a blood glucose meter to determine whether you need to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been a fan of intermittent fasting for many years, and I love it. So that was no problem to me.
Okay.
And okay. Now I had a glucose meter because I used to test for ketones when I was doing keto.
Okay.
But it was sitting in the cupboard, so I got it out and I started using it. And my main problem for me, I'd lost all the weight and that's fine, but I have a thing about old lady flabby arms and having a bit of body fat, which I'm not overly keen on. I'd like to be lean and sleek and all of that. And then suddenly, so he said, let's try this. You try it, the challenge thing, the DDF, data-driven fasting challenge. You try it and we'll see how it works for you, because you're already on all the good nutrition and whatever. Mm-hmm. And it was just like you get a jigsaw puzzle, and it was just like he gave me the last piece.
Yes.
In it went, and the puzzle was over, and that just, the fat went away slowly, but it went away. I went from, I think I started out at like 36% fat, even though I was fairly skinny. And I got down as far as 28, I think, or 26 or something like that. So it was big. When I got there, I decided I was looking a bit gaunt, because, sometimes you can, face goes in and yeah. So I just dialed it back a bit, and now I sit around about the 30% mark, and I'm really happy with that.
Okay.
That's fine with me. But it was that last piece of the puzzle, using your blood glucose meter to say, are you really hungry? Or not really, are you really hungry? Does your body actually need fuel?
Right.
Or do you want to eat because it's lunchtime?
Right.
Or because it's dinner time, or because every time you sit down to have I used to be a smoker, God forbid, sorry. Every time I sat down to have a cup of coffee, I would light a cigarette. Every time I got on the phone, I would light a cigarette. Every time after I stopped smoking, if I was on the phone, I would have a snack.
Okay.
And if I watch television at night, I have a snack. If I go to the movies, I buy chocolates. Yeah. But it's habit forming, and you eat because it's a habit. And because I don't do breakfast, I'm just not hungry in the mornings, and I'm not a breakfast person. So I usually start eating around about 12 or 2, somewhere between that. But that's just the way I go. So it was interesting to use the blood glucose meter to see where that really went. And it turned out that the types of foods I was eating at the wrong time were what was holding on to my fat levels. Because what I found, the easiest way I find to explain, it's a very complex matter. I like the way Marty's dumbing it down for me. Lots of people don't need it dumbed down, but some do. And I'm one of them. The way I like to look at it is the body has a certain need for energy, and you might call that your BMI or whatever. But if you're feeding it, then that says to the body, oh, that's okay to keep those fat cells full for later.
Right.
All right. If you look at your if you look at your blood glucose and it says it's at whatever number is above your personal trigger,
right,
then let's say my personal trigger is 5. It's not, but let's say that was at 5.
And the 5 you're using is millimoles.
5 millimoles, and the Americans, I know you use the other way of doing. I think 5 is around about 85 or 90, is it, or something like that?
I don't know off the top of my head, but
anyway, we can put a link down below for a conversion chart.
I will put a conversion.
So mine started out at around about 5.4 or something like that. my blood glucose, which is perfectly okay. It's
Yeah.
not huge. But then I would measure it. It come 2 o'clock, I think, or 1 o'clock or whenever. It was, it's lunchtime.
Yeah.
What am I going to have for lunch? You know, so, nutritious stuff. I'll have this, I'll have this. But then I started looking at my blood glucose first and think, oh, it's at 5.8. My body doesn't need food. It's used anymore. So I'd wait until a few hours have gone by and test again. If I get really, really hungry and lightheaded, I will eat something.
Yeah.
I'm not that silly.
Right.
But then gradually over a few days or over about 30 days, my personal trigger dropped down and down and down and ended up being around 4.
Okay.
So I don't eat until I got a blood sugar of 4.
Okay.
When I get to 4, my body's saying, I've used up all the glucose, so you need to give me some more.
Yeah.
If at 4.1 I tested it, and this happens a lot, people test and they're like 0.1 over the trigger,
right?
So they don't eat. And no, I want to be right. I want to be right. Yeah. I want to get down below. While you're stressing over the fact that you've got 0.1 to go down, your body is saying, oh my, it's stress time. We better release some glucose from the liver so that they've got energy to deal with the stress. And the next time you test half an hour later, it's gone up by another 3 points. And what? I haven't eaten anything, you know?
Yeah.
But it's a matter of, for me, it's a matter of understanding that link between your body needing fuel and your body not needing fuel. And if you've got fat that the body can feed on, you don't need to eat.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, that's really all being overweight is. We're walking around with storage that we haven't used. Yep. And then we're just putting more fuel in. Now, obviously, most people are not going to do that drastic, 385-day fast that some man did. He went down in the history books. But nobody needs to do that. It can be done in bits and pieces. It can be done with some portion of daily fasting.
Extended fasting is a thing. And lots of people do extended fasting for various reasons. Some for research, some because they believe in it. I've done it. I've done a 7-day fast. I've not done a 380-day fast. It's easy enough to do. Once you get over the first hunger, it goes away. That's it.
The hard part is the first couple days.
But when because I'm a bit OCD, when I started doing more and more extended fasting, because that's who I am. Yep, all right, this is good. I'll do it more and make it work. And I actually found it eventually counterproductive. I hit a plateau, and nothing else was happening. It didn't matter how long I fasted for. I stayed at the same weight.
Right.
And after talking to Marty about that, I sort of. In fact, that was about the time that I met Marty, where I was on this plateau. And he said, you need to eat more protein, I think. Have a look at your macros. So for those who don't know what macros are, which are many of us, protein, fats, and carbs.
Right. I call them the macro trinity. Macro trinity. Fats, carbs, proteins.
Some people add fiber, but that's not necessary because you get the fiber if you eat these 3 properly.
Right.
So for me, the big wake up thing to get off that plateau was to start gradually increasing the amount of protein that was the percentage of protein that was in my diet.
Yes.
So if I was eating, and I'm a small person, so I don't have a lot of calories. If I was eating, let's say, 1,000 calories a day, 400 of those calories or more would come from protein.
Okay. And we learn that stuff in the master class too.
Absolutely. And protein increasing gives you a satiety, which means that your body doesn't cry out for food.
Right.
Because it's satiated.
Right.
If you eat And the worst thing to eat together, carbs and fat together, which is chocolate and,
Right.
muffins and donuts and
Right.
all of those
It's not that we can't, but we
other
shouldn't.
lovely, yummy things.
Yeah. And it's not that we can't do that, but we
It's
just don't want to
fine.
make that the daily mainstay.
Habit. No.
Yeah. Habit. Exactly.
And it is a habit. So yeah, that was it. So I look at the amount of percentages. So I know my body reacts if I eat not enough protein, then I'm hungry.
Yeah. The protein is much more
I
holding.
want to snack. So I will eat I usually eat 2 meals a day. I eat one somewhere around the middle of the day and one towards the end of the day, not too late. Sometimes I only eat one meal, depends how my blood sugars are going. If I've been, like last night was my husband's birthday party. We took the family out to a beautiful restaurant for dinner, and I ate lots of things that I wouldn't normally eat. And I drank some champagne and I drank a couple of glasses of red wine. And I haven't even tested my blood glucose this morning because I don't think I'd like the number.
I know. Yeah. Sometimes I don't test because I don't want to know.
because I know my body so much better now.
Yeah.
I know that during the day today, I'll probably think I'm hungry because of the carbs and fat that I ate last night will deplete.
Yep.
And I'll probably think I'm hungry, but when I do get to test, I'll probably not eat now until tonight.
Yeah.
Just to get back on track again.
Yeah.
So, I think that's the great thing about the data-driven fasting and the masterclass nutritional thing is that you get to know your body.
Oh, definitely.
And what it needs and what's real and what's not.
Right. I find that one thing that
you do the masterclass first or do? Sorry.
No, go ahead with that question. That's a great question.
I was going to say, do you do the masterclass first, which is the nutritional optimization, or do you do your data-driven fasting, which is the blood glucose first? Now, you started with data-driven fasting first and found that really good, and then got into the nutritional stuff later. Right. I started with nutrition and found the data-driven fasting gave me the last piece of the puzzle. Right. So I look at this a lot of times. I moderate and help with the data-driven fasting Facebook group and the nutritional optimizing Facebook group. And I see these questions all the time. Right. Is which one shall I do first? Right. I saw one this morning, a lady who said, I've just finished, I'm getting to the end of the data-driven fasting month. And I've only last week realized that I needed to change my protein. And now I've started to lose weight. Why didn't you tell me about this earlier? But you can't overwhelm people. No, it's overwhelming if you try and take it all in at once. So to that lady, I would say, and I probably did, I think I replied to her, yes, okay, that's fine. And now you found that. But now you can do the next challenge, which is coming up in January, and you will know about the nutrition. And maybe you should think about doing the nutritional masterclass, which is coming up in February. So do your January data-driven fasting to get yourself into the idea, or wait, just continue doing what you're doing, which is working. Wait until February and do the nutritional optimization masterclass. And then your puzzle will all come together. And so maybe for her, she needs to do that second. I sort of have a feeling, it's a bit difficult because I've done them both. And I have a feeling that it's probably less overwhelming to do the data-driven fasting first.
I think so too, Sue.
And then the nutrition.
I think so too, because as you expressed, to the guys saying that this nutritional optimization tracking thing, entering the data, figuring out the chronometer and importing to the nutrient optimizer can be a bit overwhelming because it seems complicated. I think as time goes on, you've observed that Alex continues to improve the user friendliness of it. It will get easier, but that part right there can be very overwhelming to people. Whereas data driven fasting part, where you're taking your glucose and you're learning about your own glucose numbers and starting to observe what your trigger would be, where you should wait to your glucose to come down. Marty's chart, being very individualized for everybody, just they enter their data and it tells them what their new trigger is as they start to make improvements. I think that's much less complicated for people's brains.
Yeah, it is. And I've took me a while, but I've come to that conclusion, I think, in my own brain, that if somebody asks the question, I will probably say, try the data-driven fasting first, and then think about the nutrition as you're going along, and then do a masterclass afterwards and see how you go with that. But I guess what the best thing that Alex has done for a while is he started doing those little videos of how to track through chronometer, how to use the nutrient optimizer more easily. They're just making changes all the time that are improving things, and I would give a big shout out to both of them to say these are people who are changing people's lives in a very humble way. And should be given every consideration. So I hope anybody who listens to this very rambling video of me chatting away, anybody who listens to it, I hope they will go and have a look at Marty and Alex's wonderful work and see if it can help them to change their life. I think would be a good thing.
One last question, Sue, before we wrap it up. Have you heard about Jen Stevens' work? Delay, Don't Deny is her first book, and then her Feast Without Fear is her second book, and her most recent comprehensive book, in my mind, that people should just get started with is Fast, Feast, Repeat. You haven't heard of her work? Okay.
No, so, there is a lot of work done, I know, on feast and fast, and I did a feast and fast challenge once that worked quite well as well. Okay. I'll get those when you publish this. I'll look at it and get the links. So that will be really good.
Jen is someone that I have tried to connect Marty to, and so those two should be talking pretty soon. They both have each other's emails now. I said, you need to talk to him. He needs to talk to you, because they're of the same mindset, that it's not about what diet you follow. It's about having good nutrition, using fasting, being aware of how that our bodies are controlled by our hormones more than by the calories that we're taking in. Yes, calories count, but it's really the hormones that are making the difference.
Oh, of course.
And that's what Jen teaches. She talks about letting your blood glucose lower by the fasting process so that your insulin lowers, so that then your body will access its fat. So on and so forth.
It's the same ideas put in a different format, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And two other people. There are so many people in this area that are coming together, and one that I really have an enormous amount of respect for is Ted Naiman.
Yes,
Ted Naiman is mixed up. He actually is a helper on Marty's sites. He overviews Marty's sites.
Okay.
Dr. Ted Naiman is a brilliant doctor, but he's been helping me just recently because I was concerned about sarcopenia. And you get old and your bones get brittle, and you don't want that to happen. So exercise is good and all the rest of it. So I wanted to look at, now that I've reduced the body fat, I want to start increasing the lean muscle to help the bone strength. Right. So Marty pointed me towards Ted Naiman.
Okay.
And I've had a couple of conversations with him and watched hours and hours and hours of his videos about exercise and the best way to do resistance training which for older people is for me by far and away the best thing I've learned. And I'm starting to increase my lean body mass, which is fantastic.
I know. It's
so that means my bones are going to be stronger. You know, it's all getting better. And you know, I've got guns now. Really
and the wings went away, right?
Well, they're gone. Look, yeah, they're not there anymore.
I know.
So yeah, Ted Naiman is one that I think you should link as well.
Okay.
And last time, I promise you the last one, somebody on one of those websites, one of those Facebook pages put me onto is BJ Fogg, who's written F-O-G-G.
Okay.
He's written a book called Tiny Habits.
Oh.
And he's a behavioral specialist.
Is it Atomic Habits? Is he the Atomic Habit guy? Tiny Habits. Okay. I will get this. I will make sure I get some good links from you for these to make sure that they're included in the description.
Tiny Habits is a revelation. I'm looking at how to change habits.
Okay.
And the nice thing about his book is that it's eminently readable. I actually sat down and read it in one sitting.
Okay.
And then I had to go back and read it again, because then you start to do the exercises that are there. Changing your ways by changing your habits is quite fascinating. So therein lies another one. So we've got the nutrition, we've got the diet-driven fasting, we've got the exercise with Ted Naiman, we've got the Tiny Habits to change your ways. God, you know, I don't have time to work anymore. So I don't know how he has time to work. I don't know how Alex has time to work. But it's a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed meeting wonderful people like yourself and Loretta and Lily B and all of those other wonderful people, and Bob.
Yeah.
And even Frank. But sorry, Frank. So all of these things in this wonderful community that we're building, that Marty and Alex have started, could help so many people. They could. It could.
I know. And they're not trying to dig deep into our pockets either. So this doesn't have to be where you pour all this money into something and get nothing out of it. Not at all. I'm very mindful about the money that is required in order to make improvements. I tell people that they can go to Walmart, and for $20 in one little box, they can buy a glucose meter where they could have everything they need, the lancing device, the pipettes, the test strips, the kit, everything's right there for $20. 50 tests they can do with that $20 box. And then for another $17, $18, they can buy 100 more test strips. So they could start.
And if they happen to be type 2 diabetics, they can get it all for nothing.
That's true. They can, if they have a medical diagnosis. So this does not have to be an expensive endeavor.
No.
And like you're saving $400 a month now, not taking all those supplements, because you've learned that real food is more bioavailable for your body and is meeting your needs.
Absolutely.
Which you've proved out through your functional medicine doctor's blood testing.
Yep.
So
absolutely. Yeah. It's all good stuff, and we're all getting stronger, and you can stand there and walk on that blasted machine of yours for hours on end and not get worn out.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Sue, for giving me your morning today. And
my pleasure. My pleasure. It's lovely to talk to you.
It was a fascinating story to me. I wanted to hear it, and I thought, if I want to hear it, maybe somebody else does. So now it's going to be saved for recording, and my son will clean things up and give me a YouTube link, and I will put
okay. I will message you those few links.
Okay. Yeah. That's great. Thanks, Sue. All right.
Okay.
I'm gonna hit stop recording on here.
And I'm gone.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.